The scorching Texas summer sun bore down mercilessly on the landfill near Houston. Amidst towering piles of debris and scrap metal, a middle-aged woman, once elegantly dressed but now in tattered and filthy clothes, wandered aimlessly. Her eyes, once bright and full of life, were now vacant, lost. This was Evelyn Sinclair, until recently one of the wealthiest and most influential women in New York. Now, she couldn't even remember her own name. Just a week ago, Evelyn lived in a luxurious Manhattan penthouse, married to the charming and ambitious Richard Sinclair. Her life seemed perfect. Extravagant parties, trips around the world, dazzling jewelry. But behind the silk curtains and champagne glasses, a sinister scheme was unfolding. Richard, a Wall Street broker with a killer smile and a flexible moral compass, had been planning the perfect con for months. Married to Evelyn for 15 years, he knew she was set to inherit an astronomical fortune on her 50th birthday, just days away. What Evelyn didn't know was that her beloved husband had a mistress, Veronica, a young and ambitious attorney who worked at the same firm as Richard. On the eve of Evelyn's birthday, Richard prepared a special dinner. A little early, celebration, he said, handing her a glass of red wine. What Evelyn didn't notice was the tiny pill dissolving in her drink, a powerful drug that would cause temporary but profound amnesia. The next morning, while Evelyn was still unconscious, Richard set his dark plan in motion. With Veronica's help, he carried his unconscious wife to the car, drove for hours to Texas, and abandoned her in the landfill, far from anything or anyone that could connect her to her past life. Back in New York, Richard reported Evelyn's disappearance to the police, playing the role of a devastated and worried husband, with Veronica by his side, publicly consoling him as a close friend of the couple. He manipulated the media, gaining sympathy as the devoted husband of a missing millionaire. At the landfill, Evelyn struggled to make sense of where she was and who she was. Fragments of memories flickered in her mind, but nothing made sense. A name, Richard, echoed in her thoughts, but she couldn't associate it with a face or a meaning. As the days passed, Evelyn, now known only as the landfill woman by the few who saw her, began to adapt to her new reality. Her innate elegance, even amidst the dirt and chaos, stood out. She scavenged through the trash for food and shelter, her once delicate fingers adorned with diamond rings now digging through remnants and refuse. Meanwhile in New York, Richard and Veronica celebrated their victory. With Evelyn declared missing, Richard took control of her multi-million-dollar inheritance. Their plan was to wait a few months, declare Evelyn legally dead, and then begin their new life together, richer than they had ever dreamed. But fate had other plans. At the landfill, a young volunteer from a homeless outreach organization noticed Evelyn, intrigued by her refined posture and manners, so out of place in her surroundings. He began to investigate. Little did he know he was about to uncover one of the most shocking cases of betrayal and greed the country had ever seen. And Evelyn, as she fought to survive each day, something inside her began to awaken. A spark of memory, a glimpse of the strong and determined woman she once was. Without realizing it, she was about to embark on a journey, not just to reclaim her past, but to seek a revenge that would shake the very foundations of New York's high society. As Evelyn struggled to survive in the Texas landfill, her former life in New York continued to crumble. Richard, with his unwavering charm and crocodile tears, gave tearful interviews to the press, pleading for information about his beloved, missing wife. Veronica, meanwhile, stayed in the shadows, publicly consoling Richard while secretly helping orchestrate the financial fraud that would secure Evelyn's fortune for them. Days dragged on under the relentless Texas sun. Still without any memory of who she was, Evelyn began forming unexpected bonds with other people in the landfill. An elderly woman, known to everyone as Grandma May, took Evelyn under her wing. With weathered hands and a kind heart, May taught Evelyn how to survive in their harsh reality. "You don't belong here, sweetheart," May would often say, watching Evelyn's refined gestures which persisted despite the filth and chaos. "Something tells me you come from a very different place." Those words echoed in Evelyn's confused mind, stirring fragments of memory she couldn't quite grasp. Sometimes she would wake up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, flashes of a luxurious life flickering in her mind like a broken film reel. Meanwhile, the young volunteer, his name was Jake, remained intrigued by the mysterious woman in the landfill. He started visiting more often, bringing supplies and trying to gain Evelyn's trust. There was something in her eyes, a mix of confusion and determination that compelled him to dig deeper. Back in New York, Richard and Veronica's scheme was beginning to unravel. The police, initially convinced by Richard's story about Evelyn's disappearance, were starting to ask tougher questions. A sharp-eyed detective, Sandra Martinez, noticed inconsistencies in Richard's statements and decided to investigate further. "Something doesn't add up here, partner," Martinez told her colleague as they reviewed the case. "The husband is a little too eager to declare his wife dead, don't you think?" Martinez's investigation was getting dangerously close to the truth, making Richard and Veronica increasingly anxious. They knew they had to move fast to secure Evelyn's fortune before the authorities uncovered their deception. In Texas, Jake finally managed to have a real conversation with Evelyn. Sitting on an old discarded couch, he gently asked her about her past. I don't remember," Evelyn admitted, frustration evident in her voice. "Sometimes I get flashes. A luxury apartment, elegant parties, a man, Richard. But everything is so blurry." Jake listened intently, his instincts telling him he had stumbled onto something far bigger than he initially imagined. He decided to do some digging of his own, starting with missing persons cases in New York. Meanwhile, Evelyn continued her daily struggle in the landfill, but something inside her was shifting. With each passing day, her determination grew. Even without knowing exactly who she was, she felt an inner strength building, as if her true self was fighting to break free from the depths of oblivion. One night, as she sifted through a fresh pile of trash, Evelyn found a torn piece of newspaper. The headline caught her eye: "New York Millionaire Still Missing." Her eyes scanned the article, and then they stopped on a photo. It was her. More polished, more elegant, but unmistakably her. The shock made her stumble. Memories flooded her mind like a raging tide. Her name, her life in New York, her husband, Richard. And then, the terrible night when everything changed. The betrayal, the drug in her wine, the abandonment. With trembling hands, Evelyn clutched the newspaper against her chest. Her once empty eyes now burned with a mix of pain, fury, and determination. She knew who she was now, and more importantly, she knew what she had to do. "Richard?" she whispered into the night, her voice laced with a dark promise. "You have no idea what's coming." Evelyn's discovery of her true identity triggered a profound transformation. The disoriented woman from the landfill was gone, replaced by a determined figure, her eyes now burning with renewed purpose. She knew she had to act with caution and intelligence to reclaim her life, and more importantly, to make Richard pay for his betrayal. Meanwhile, in New York, Detective Sandra Martinez intensified her investigation. She began noticing suspicious patterns in Richard's financial transactions shortly after Evelyn's disappearance. "He's moving a lot of money for someone supposedly devastated by his wife's loss," she murmured to herself, analyzing the bank statements. Richard and Veronica, on the other hand, felt the walls closing in. In a tense meeting at their luxurious apartment, they discussed their next steps. "We need to speed up the process of declaring her legally dead," Veronica insisted, her eyes flashing with a mix of fear and ambition. "The longer we wait, the greater the risk of someone uncovering the truth." Richard reluctantly agreed, but something unsettled him. What if she survived somehow? What if she comes back? Veronica laughed, a cold, humorless sound. "Don't be ridiculous, Richard. No one survives that landfill for this long. She's dead, and we're about to become immensely rich." Back in Texas, Jake, the young volunteer, finally connected Evelyn to the missing persons case in New York. He rushed to the landfill, eager to share his discovery, only to find Evelyn already aware of her identity. "I need your help, Jake," Evelyn said, her voice firm and resolute. "I have to get back to New York, but I can't just show up. Not yet." I need time to plan my return. Jake, moved by Evelyn's story and outraged by the betrayal she had suffered, agreed to help. Together, they began crafting a bold plan. In the weeks that followed, Evelyn underwent a transformation. With Jake's help and a few of his contacts, she started reclaiming her former appearance. Hair dye, better clothes, and an unshakable determination helped turn the Landfill woman back into Evelyn Sinclair, or at least a version of her. At the same time, she and Jake worked tirelessly to gather evidence against Richard. Jake used his research skills to track suspicious financial movements, while Evelyn mentally reconstructed the events that had led her to this moment. In New York, tension was mounting. Richard, pressured by Martinez's increasingly aggressive investigation and Veronica's impatience, made a critical mistake. He attempted to transfer a large sum of money to an offshore account, a move that did not go unnoticed by the keen-eyed detective. Sensing she was on the verge of uncovering something major, Martinez increased her surveillance on Richard. She began following his movements, photographing his meetings with Veronica, and monitoring his communications. Evelyn, now unrecognizable, with her new appearance and armed with a fake identity provided by Jake, finally returned to New York. She checked into a modest hotel, far from the social circles she once frequented. From her hotel room, Evelyn gazed out at the city that had once been her playground, her eyes locked onto the Manhattan skyline, knowing that somewhere within those towering buildings, Richard was living the life he had stolen from her. "Enjoy it while you can, darling," she murmured, a cold smile forming on her lips, "because your world is about to come crashing down." That night, Evelyn made a crucial call. Using a disposable phone, she contacted Detective Martinez. "Detective, I have information about the disappearance of Evelyn Sinclair," she said, disguising her voice. "Meet me at Central Park tomorrow. I'll show you something that will change everything you think you know about this case." As she hung up, a surge of adrenaline coursed through her veins. The game was about to change and she held all the cards. Richard had no idea, but his reign of lies was nearing its end. Revenge, Evelyn realized, was a dish best served cold. And she was ready to serve a meal Richard and Veronica would never forget. Dawn in New York brought with it a palpable tension. Evelyn, awake for hours, watched Central Park from her hotel window, her heart pounding with a mix of anxiety and determination. Today was the day she would begin dismantling the world Richard had so carefully built on his lies. Meanwhile, Detective Sandra Martinez arrived at the agreed-upon location, her sharp eyes scanning the area for her mysterious informant. She had no idea she was about to meet Evelyn Sinclair herself, the woman whose disappearance had intrigued her for months. Evelyn approached cautiously, still unrecognizable in her disguise. "Detective Martinez," she called softly, making the officer turn around. "Who are you?" Martinez asked, her hand instinctively moving toward her weapon. "Someone who can give you all the answers about Evelyn Sinclair," Evelyn replied, her voice firm. "But first I need you to listen to an unbelievable story." For the next 2 hours, Evelyn revealed everything to Martinez. Richard's betrayal, his plan to steal her fortune, her abandonment in a Texas landfill. The detective listened, her eyes widening with each new revelation. This is impossible," Martinez finally said, her mind struggling to process the information. "How can I believe you?" Evelyn gave a sad smile and began removing her disguise, the wig, the glasses, the heavy makeup. "Because I am Evelyn Sinclair." The shock on Martinez's face was undeniable. "My God," she whispered, "it's really you." Now convinced, Martinez listened as Evelyn shared the evidence she and Jake had gathered. Financial records, incriminating emails between Richard and Veronica, even audio recordings Jake had obtained during his investigations. "We need to act fast," Evelyn insisted. "Richard is about to finalize the transfer of my inheritance. If we don't stop him now, he and Veronica will escape with everything." Martinez nodded, her instincts as a cop taking over. "I'll get a warrant immediately. But Evelyn, you need to understand, we can't just barge in and arrest them. We need to catch them in the act." Evelyn smiled, a dangerous glint in her eyes. Leave that to me, Detective. I have a plan. That afternoon, Richard received an unexpected call. Mr. Sinclair, an unfamiliar female voice said, I have information about your missing wife. Meet me at your office in an hour. Come, alone. Richard went pale, his heart racing. He immediately called Veronica. Someone knows something. I need to go to the office now. Are you insane? Veronica hissed over the phone. It could be a trap, or it could be our chance to silence any threat once and for all, Richard replied coldly. I'll be there in 30 minutes. Meanwhile, Evelyn and Martinez set up their sting. Hidden cameras were installed in Richard's office, and a team of officers was in position, waiting for the signal. When Richard stepped into his office, he found a figure standing with their back to him, gazing out the window. Who are you? What do you know about my wife? The figure slowly turned around, and Richard felt the blood drain from his face. Standing before him was Evelyn, alive, determined, and with a look that promised retribution. Hello, darling, Evelyn said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Surprised to see me? Richard stumbled backward, his face a mask of shock and horror. This is impossible. You're dead. Sorry to disappoint you, Evelyn, replied coolly. But as you can see, I'm very much alive, and I've come to take back what's mine. At that moment, Veronica burst through the door, having ignored Richard's orders to stay away. Her face went pale at the sight of Evelyn. No, it can't be. Evelyn smiled, a smile without warmth. Ah, Veronica, I'm so glad you could join us. That makes things easier. With a nod from Evelyn, Detective Martinez and her team stormed into the office. Richard Sinclair, Veronica Lawson, you are under arrest for attempted murder, fraud, and multiple other crimes, Martinez announced, cuffing the stunned couple. As Richard and Veronica were taken away, Evelyn remained in the office, gazing out at the city she had almost lost. Her revenge was only beginning, and she knew the days ahead would be a whirlwind of revelations, legal battles, and finally, justice. But for now, in this moment of triumph, Evelyn allowed herself a small smile. The game had changed, and once again she was the queen of the board. The months following Richard and Veronica's arrest were a whirlwind of activity. The Sinclair case became a national sensation, dominating headlines and television programs. Evelyn, once a victim, emerged as a figure of resilience and determination, her story inspiring millions. The trial was a media spectacle. Richard and Veronica, once so confident and arrogant, now looked small and pathetic on the defendant's bench. Evelyn, on the other hand, radiated strength as she testified, her voice steady as she detailed every aspect of the betrayal and abandonment she had endured. You didn't just try to steal my fortune, Evelyn declared, looking directly at Richard and Veronica. You tried to steal my identity, my dignity, and my life, but you failed. The verdict was unanimous, guilty on all charges. Richard was sentenced to 30 years in prison, while Veronica received 20. As they were led away, Evelyn felt a wave of relief and satisfaction, but also an unexpected emptiness. Revenge, she realized, wasn't as sweet as she had imagined. In Diu, the days that followed, Evelyn delved into deep introspection. She had regained her fortune and social status, but something inside her had fundamentally changed. The experiences in the Texas landfill, the struggle for survival, and the people who had helped her in her most vulnerable moment had left an indelible mark. On a sunny morning, Evelyn called a press conference. Journalists crowded in, expecting more explosive revelations about the case. But what Evelyn announced surprised everyone. Today, I am here to announce the creation of the Sinclair Second Chances Foundation, she declared, her voice filled with emotion. This organization will be dedicated to helping people who, like me, have lost everything and need an opportunity to rebuild their lives. She went on to explain how the foundation would provide shelter, education, and job opportunities for the homeless, abuse survivors, and former inmates seeking redemption. My experience taught me that true wealth isn't in bank accounts or luxury properties. Evelyn explained, her eyes shining with unshed tears. It's in compassion, resilience, and the ability to stand up and help others, even when you've been knocked down yourself. Behind the scenes, Jake, the young volunteer who had been instrumental in her journey, smiled proudly. He would now work alongside Evelyn at the foundation, bringing his experience in community outreach. In the months and years that followed, the Sinclair Second Chances Foundation grew into one of the most respected philanthropic organizations in the country. Evelyn dedicated her life to the cause, finding a sense of purpose and fulfillment she had never experienced in her previous life of luxury and privilege. She made a point to visit Richard in prison one last time. He looked older, his arrogance replaced by quiet resignation. "You won, Evelyn," he said bitterly. "Are you happy now?" Evelyn gazed at him with a mix of pity and understanding. "It's not about winning, Richard. It's about doing what's right. I hope one day you understand that." As she walked out of the prison, Evelyn felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She had closed this chapter of her life, not with bitterness or hatred, but with a renewed sense of purpose. That night in her apartment, Evelyn looked out at the city that had once represented only wealth and status to her. Now, she saw possibilities, lives that could be changed, people who could be helped. Her phone rang. It was Jake calling about a new foundation project to support at-risk youth. Evelyn smiled, feeling truly alive. Life is funny, she thought. Sometimes we have to lose everything to discover what really matters. With that thought, Evelyn Sinclair, once a betrayed and abandoned millionaire, now a philanthropist, and symbol of hope, went back to work. Her true revenge wasn't Richard and Veronica's punishment, but the transformation of her own life and the lives of countless others. The sun set over New York, marking the end of one day and the beginning of many more filled with purpose and compassion. For Evelyn, this wasn't an ending. It was a new and exciting beginning. Challenge of the day. What was the most shocking part of this story for you? Subscribe to the channel and comment below. Let's see who can guess the next episode. See you.